Well, this book that I have right here is called Life of a Firefly, and it is a newly released children's book meant to remind kids of all ages that no matter how bleak a situation may look, a little faith can go a long way.
And joining us now to tell us all about it is the author herself, Sandy Lindstedt. Thank you for joining us this morning. Sandy, tell us why. I'm sorry.
You ladies look beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Sandy, tell us why Life of a Firefly.
Why Life of a Firefly? Well, I thought it was time to do a children's book because I had wrote my memoir 5 years ago. And my friend, who is a teacher at an international school here in Gothenburg, she said, I want you to come and read some of those stories to some of the kids here, the middle school kids. So I went there, and the kids were so wonderful. I mean, I personally don't like to be around middle school kids so much, but these kids changed my mind. They were just so joyous about the stories that I read. And so I said, you know what, I need to do a children's book just because of what that experience was at the school. Yeah.
What I find it interesting is that the main character's name is actually Sandy, because some of these events are based on your own life. So what was it like putting your own life on paper?
Wow, that was a journey, and I think it was very cathartic journey. I grew up in Chicago in some of the not the best place on the South Side, and the projects and in the ghetto areas there. And so my life and my surroundings was pretty bleak. And the only thing that I had to look forward to was my summers with my grandmother in Hooks, Texas. And so just by being with her and she instilling in me this faith in myself and not to give in to my surroundings, that's what really helped me to cope with living in Chicago. So it was pretty rough. And putting it down on the paper, it just sort of, it gave me sort of clarity and feeling like, hey, you know, I made it through.
I love that.
And you also say representation really mattered for your book, and The Life of a Firefly gives others a look into the Black experiences in a new way. Can you go a little bit more in depth about that?
Well, a lot of people have assumptions about the Black experience. They think, okay, because, you know, they don't know how it is to be a Black person living in America. So when I came to Sweden, my husband, he's a Swede, and so he sort of asked me all these questions about how it was like growing up in America. And so because they had their natural assumptions of how life was. And so when I gave them a little peek into how I grew up, they were fascinated. They was like, really, 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 you know? And so my husband, he did this thing called headlines. He wrote down the stories that I was telling him about my childhood. And he came over and he said, one day, he said, you know, Sandy, you need to write a memoir about this. You need to write a memoir. And so I said, okay, why not? So, yeah. And to see, I guess, to see myself through his eyes was pretty different.
Is there anything that stuck out to him when you were telling these stories, one story in particular?
Well, there was a story that I put in my book. It's about this bully named Gorilla Girl. She was this bully in middle school, and she had been left behind many times. And so he was sort of fascinated about how I coped with that situation, because all of a sudden, you know, she put her eyes on me. And so I was her target. And so he said, well, what did you do? How did you go to school every day? What happened, you know? And so I told him, you know, you have to cope. And that's what Life of a Firefly is about. The firefly is a metaphor for hope, you know, because God has a future for you. And if you don't see that future, if you're not aware of that, if your faith in yourself and in God starts to diminish, then you can give in to your surroundings. And so I had that hope that my grandmother instilled in me, that I could make it through anything. And so with this bully, we became friends. And
Wow.
the story's in the
Wow.
book, so but it's yeah.
I love
That's
that
pretty neat.
because we've all dealt with bullies, and it's so important to share our experiences. Because just you saying Gorilla Girl, I said I dealt with a Gorilla Girl myself as well, because you know, you don't realize how to deal with a bully until you get out of it, and then
Right.
hopefully that your experience can help somebody else.
Bullies are mean.
Oh, they are very mean.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, we became good friends. And it's sort of like a story that you would never believe that would happen. But yeah, but it's in the book. So, and this helps other kids to know that they're not alone in their experiences in school, that everybody goes through that. And you wouldn't think that me living here and in Sweden and sharing my stories with Swedish people and children, that they would be able to identify with any of these things. But the stories, like you said, are universal, you know, with children.
And so, as this book is not only just for little girls,
Right.
it's for all ages and genders. How long did it take for you to just put your life story into this book?
Well, actually, the first book was a memoir, and that took about 2 years to write. And now the children's book, it took with editors and rewrites and all of that stuff that goes along with writing. It took about a year to actually finish it. Yeah.
I just love this. And Sandy, stick around. We're going to hear more from you and go more in depth about this book and these stories right after this break. Stay with us right here on Being a Woman.
Thank you.